and we've all been through it. I remember the early everything I got commissioned, they really wanted sad, poverty, dirty images, you know. I remember doing the shoot, and by the time it was published, they had toned it, like they changed the tone to make it look dingier because it was a bit too clean, you know. And that really got me thinking about what we were doing in supporting those narratives, and I decided I was not going to accept. It didn't matter how much. That's one thing that God has given me. I'm not inspired by money, so I'm always like more of thinking of what I want to put out, and maybe because my background is also in communications. So every time I'm putting out something, I'm thinking, how does it affect the subject? How does it affect the people? So what photographers have done now is they realize they need to tell their own stories in the way they want it, in the way they visualize it. For many people, a lot of photographers are self-taught in Africa. I think maybe I would say 90% are self-taught. Why? Because most people can't even afford to fly anywhere to get those skills. And here, it's mostly the commercial side. It's like, let's train on portraits, weddings, studio. You going to say, let's discuss concepts and ideas. People are trying to survive. You know what I mean? So the percentage of people that are looking into that kind of work to football, and he wanted to like portray unity in how unity, whether it's culture, and he decided football would be his subject. So he would have like himself as a king holding a football, or like a policeman with a whistle, but like the referee whistle. Like he just picked different aspects of society and embedded football in it, but also made it deeper. You know, because it was more like, okay, the commercialization of it. Why do you pick certain clubs and think they are better? Think about that. We have Ava, for example. I think that's the top-notch, world-class club in anything. But how many people do you have supporting? So he really like got people who walk into that space to think beyond just the images that they were seeing. So I think that's for me one of the major importance. Apart from obviously the commercial side, the tourist side, but photographers get to learn and understand conceptualization, storytelling, social change, because your images can get people to react, to think. So for me, that's one of the major impacts I feel for festivals, and now especially that it's expanding across Africa. I think almost every country has a photo festival now, at one point or the other, and they're beginning to make it in a way that the calendar doesn't clash. So that because it's a limited community. So I feel we need a lot more. I've been speaking the last 2 days at the Abuja Photo Festival. And just like you said, it's about classes, it's about community, it's about getting to know each other, getting support. And also discussing serious issues that matter to help young minds open up to the idea of being great with the art that they're doing. Thank you.
So I like to think that some of the best photographers that are working right now in the world are from Africa. You know, like you look at people like Zanele Muhudi, like Aja Monene. These are people who are celebrated across the world over European and American photographers. See, Ada had the opportunity to both curate and exhibit at the Nobel Peace Prize, and she became the first Black African woman, and the first African to do so. And you know, it's been so amazing that finally, you know, we are allowed to tell our own stories at the world stage in a way that is, you know, free of racial stereotypes, free of prejudices, and the work that, you know, people are creating is phenomenal. You know, I think, you know, when you guys, if you have a chance, go and look at the work of Etinosa Yvonne. Go and look at the work of Ukanyasu. Even Almajiri, who works out of Kano. So, I mean, it's amazing that, you know, finally, you know, like, I think photography is probably our best art form. But we're still very much underappreciated. But I think we're getting to that point because, like you rightly said, the Abuja Photo Festival is currently ongoing. The Lagos Photo Festival is also ongoing, and that goes on for about a month. Bamako Encounters is probably the largest photo festival in Africa. It has been for a very long time. And then now you also have the Africa Photo Festival by Ada. And I understand that what she wanted was she wanted a festival where you could bring East Africa and West Africa together. Because they started in East Africa, they had about 8 years, then they took a break during COVID, and then they had 2 editions in Cote d'Ivoire. The third one starts in November. And what they have managed to do is now have a festival where you have West African artists, you have East African artists, you have South African artists, and you have diaspora artists. And when you look at this work, it's some of the most universal kind of images ever. And they really push photography to the extreme. It's, I mean, there was a time when street photography was in, but no one is doing street photography anymore. There's so much conceptualization, so much intellectualization, so much intent in the way photographers are making work. And for me, I just want to see, that, being appreciated more, and, photography to get its flowers. So which is why I do like this concept of festivals. And, it's always nice to think about, why the focus on community? And why the focus on education? And why the focus, because I think you have, because this deals with the work that you do, but it's all down to access. And the idea that a lot of photographers are self-taught. And I think part of it comes from the accessibility to it. That, I suppose there's something about, the way we live in Africa that pushes a lot of people to be creative, to be expressive. And if you want to start painting, you know that it's very expensive. You have to buy canvas, you have to buy materials, and you can't erase and delete. Drawing takes a lot of practice and a lot of time. But with photography, there's so much information out there that you can easily learn the basics, go out there and start doing stuff. But you find that the level at which people are working at is incredible, and people should get their hours. Okay, so we just wanted to talk briefly about some of the issues that photographers kind of face here in Africa and in Nigeria.
So maybe you kind of mentioned something as well. I think that basically, if we can democratize photography. I mean, everyone has a camera right now. If you have a phone, it's better than you have a camera. So what I do see is this, right? I see that you talked about street photography no longer being out there and all of that. And I think that maybe that's where the problem actually really starts. Because now people are trying to control things. They want to make everything right, they want to control. They're no longer seeing things. That's where the problem is. Street photography is where you see. You can't, if you want to see, just move around and look at your environment. What you see, capture it. What you see, capture it. But everyone is trying to set up lights, trying to set up all kinds of things. They are no longer seeing. And that's where the problem is. I think the fact that if we're able to see, we're able to create more. But when it becomes studios, we have to do it. You having a certain apparatus, you're having all this kind of stuff, then it becomes laborious. You mainly treat your eye. And I think that when you have a camera in your hand, as a phone, or whatever, the next thing is to be more observant. What are your interests? What catches your eye? What makes you more interested? What is it that's drawing your attention? What's making you be more conscious of things around you? What I mean, aware of, and I read an article, there's a magazine, Zoom magazine, that did a story about me some time back and everything, and I've been following and I read a lot of their work. And there is an article where this is a writer wrote something about this whole thing about photograph has the ability of, which this one, another challenging thing about photography is the ability to reproduce and all of that. But this was art now. It was talking about how artists are mimicking other artists, like basically copying exactly what another artist has done. You know, and you find that in photography as well, but I think that when you're taking a picture, right, you probably have trained your mind to see certain patterns. You're not just basically taking, oh, I see you're putting this line this way, you're using gold, you're using all those colors, and I'm taking exactly that. But with photography, like when you're copying the style, you're basically not in the same place, not in the same state of mind, but you're trying your mind to see certain type of patterns, that type of thing. And I think that the more we train our eyes and our mind, and also always ask ourselves, why are we drawn to certain things? I take a lot of pictures of nature, and the reason why I do that is because I want to strip outside of all of the commercial things that we have in the country. All these glass, shiny things. It's not making people see because people are just like what do you call it? Fireflies, what do you call it? Like when you do nice lines, you just go there. Like, what are you doing? Come on, like, know why you're there. That type of thing. So, people are no longer aware of the things that are around them. So I like to take pictures of nature. And I like to listen, look at a tree, look at a house, look at a cloud, look at all of this, And when you start being observant of all those things, you start to ask yourself, am I being controlled by some kind of shiny object, or am I pleasing my soul? So, and this is very accessible. Like, for you to take a picture of nature, you don't have to travel.
Yeah.
You just show your environment. You show what is around you, what is it you like about your environment, what is your everyday life, and that's why it's a street documentary photography, going out of the way, is killing people. It's making people not become very creative. Because you see candid pictures, you take, oh, I see a picture of this, I take a picture of that, oh, I post it up on Instagram. I post it up on in a blog, or I can write like 5 lines or one paragraph, and just tell the story behind it, And then you start having more people. You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to have a big name. You don't have to be at a festival. You don't need that. You're just doing it. It's happening. But if it's not happening, it's not happening.
I like the point you made, though. The irony, with when you take a photograph, and usually an artist would do a number of prints and editions of that work. So, that kind of affects the value, which is, so that anybody can recreate it. I can take a picture of the photograph and go and recreate it. And that's kind of its advantage against original painting, where painting is a one-of-one. And then you mentioned this idea of, copying styles. And I just made that, it's ironic, because it's true. I can try and copy anybody's style, but I will always produce work that is quite original and very different. And it's just something as simple as, location, lighting, whatever it is. And I think that also plays into the idea of why you see it as a community, is because no one is threatened by another person. It's all just inspiration, or it's not inspiration. It's never all the person is copying my style. And I remember there was a time when black and white photography was like a thing. And there was one Lagos-based photographer who felt like he owned the rights to it. And it was very funny because he had a wonderful career. His pictures were amazing. And right when his career was blooming, he kind of went very public with this people are all copying my style. And the feedback was just terrible. This is the one art form where we're all friends. We're all in a community, but here you are trying to bring down your kind of fellow, and it didn't work out in a favor. So yes, so Aisha, back to some of the key issues that you tend to address with your agency and in your organization.
Okay, so I'll say based on my own experience, my own life, not just the agency, identity and culture, gender issues have always been, I didn't even realize I was doing it until I had to put together a portfolio and I was being interviewed. It was for a book, I think it was for 101 Nigerian artists or something like that. And the guy who was writing our forwards interviewed a couple of us. You know, he took his time, 2-3 days, back and forth. And then at the end of it, he gives you his feedback and also obviously what he's written for approval. And he asked me, what I realized from most of your work is culture identity. There's culture, there's identity, there's gender. Have you really thought about why? And I really did. And that's, I think, also one of the beauties of going to festivals and experiencing publishing and things like that. So I think this was also for a festival in the US. And I remember persons that have not been allowed to thrive, you know, and that really also got me when I see strong women coming out of these spaces. Those stories always get to me. Or if I go into a community, I'm always drawn to the matriarch. So it's like you don't times that based on your biases and your own experiences, it will come out in your work. For someone who has a very negative mindset, when you're documenting, that's probably all you're going to see. If you're a happy, inspirational, you have hope every day, you will most likely find the hope. I'll give a simple example: crisis. Of course, there were a lot of photographers that went out, and it was really just the story of the fight. And we had William Ayamoba, who I feel is an excellent, like he's really good at finding stories in the midst of nothing. And he made a photograph that actually, and that photograph was a mosque. There were Muslims praying, and the Christians surrounded the mosque. He's won so many awards with that photo. And at that time, there was so many people there, but nobody thought to go up from a different angle. I think he found one of the military vehicles or something, and he did like an aerial type shot. And it was so powerful that even when you see it, you'll be like, we truly, why are we even killing ourselves? And that really helped. And I think that was one of the first times that I understood the power of a narrative, because Will was able to find that kind of story. So for me, I think the challenge is for those who are picking up the camera, you have enthusiasts who, I don't remember the name of there's a guy who used to fly to Nigeria for work, and he has like 6 books now. And he started with the cultural festivals. It was right? I think so, yes.
South African, right?
He wasn't a photographer. Yes, he has like 6 books, I think now. He wasn't a photographer, and what he used to do was, whenever he came into town, he was with air hosts or hostesses that were not allowed to move around. Like, once you come in, you're only in your hotel until it's time for the next flight. So whenever he goes out, he would take like street photos to show them. And he just realized he was building a portfolio of these beautiful images. So I think the first book was mostly streets like Okada, the yellow buses, like Lagos alive kind of thing. And it moved into the festivals, and it just kept growing and growing. And so you can see how an enthusiast can get dragged into it. For someone who decides that's what they want to do commercially, they're not really going to think of concepts. They're just thinking of how they're going to sell. And I think that's 90% of where we are now. Most people who pick up the camera and think, okay, I'm going to make money from this. And it's all well and good. But like Tesso said earlier, it limits your thought process as to how deep you want to go with the conversation. Because commercial is fast. It's easy. I need to just sell. So sometimes even when I see art like this, in my mind I'm like, are we trying to copy the art of painting? Or is there something deeper? But by the time you read the artist's note or the story, you'll be like, oh wow, this is what this person is trying to express, right? So I would say challenges, obviously funding is an issue. Security is an issue. For the kind of stories we want to tell, I think a lot of photographers, if you allow them, if they tell you today, you can afford any, to do any work. And I'm really glad that a lot of art fellowships are now looking into supporting research for photographers, training them in the mindset of research and data collection, and of course storytelling. Of course, we talked about copying people, intellectual property. In 2009 or 2010, I think was the first time I held my first class to say, okay, let me even just do basics to get people, because you look at someone like Almajiri now. I didn't know him. I still haven't properly met him, but he's moving here for us on Monday, so I'm going to be working with him. And his work, every time I saw it, I'm like, wow. So I had to DM him. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but wow, like you're one of my favorite pages to go to on Instagram. And he was a young student. He just had a phone. It was a basic phone. It wasn't even anything that you would spend money on to think, I would buy a camera. But the kind of images and stories this boy was capturing were just like the kind that would think, wow, I wish I shot this, or I wish I was there to experience it. And for someone like that, imagine he is fully funded. Yeah. Just imagine. So these are the real issues, to be honest. Life, people trying to survive, because obviously we want to do our art, but we must still pay bills. Those who we have limited access to the education. I studied curating at Chelsea College of Art and Design, and it also got me thinking about how to curate the kind of things, because it's beyond just putting people in the room. For many of us, I don't know how many people are photographers in this room. So we have 4 hands up. So for those 4, it would be, oh, we're here and we could start thinking about these things just by being in this space. So I think for me, I would say if we could get a lot of private sector support, which we already kind of do, because it's not government and public development institutions that support. We need to get a lot more entertainment and lawyers within the IP space. The importance, if she's done work like this, what you see on the wall, it took time to think it through. It took time to do the editing, the photography, the makeup, the setup. It's a lot of work. And then you have someone just come overnight doing the exact same thing, and we don't have the legal backup, because you're really just diluting up the work. So for me, I think if we generalize, for street photography, you can't get that exact moment ever again. So if we can find a way to professionalize it, to see things from the perspective of freezing time, that would be really helpful. So I'm just saying the solutions to some of the problems that we have, but I feel many of us are standing up to ensure that we support ourselves to make things better. Thank you.
So one thing that just got me thinking about that image that came out from Just is there's a lot of power in photography. I remember almost over 10 years ago, there was this popular photograph that was published in, I think it was at the Time magazine on a boy, probably about 3 years old, malnourished, and then there was a vulture. Yes, and the West loved it. I think he won a number of awards. But over here, we were just like, why didn't you give the boy water? You know, you took your time to just be like, oh, let me take a photo. This is amazing. But you couldn't think to yourself, oh, here is some water. Here is some food. Shoot the bird. You know, so I mean, it was very nice. And
but it really got to him. He ended up killing himself. That's the sad thing from that image, because when we're doing this work, sometimes you're in spaces where you're not even allowed to interact. And that's why I keep telling you, you get those commissions. You will get it. The money is there for that. They will commission you to go and get those kind of images for sure. You will even be paid. I remember when I found out, I even said this yesterday, finding out about being paid, security being paid for me. When I saw the amount, I was like, what? Do you understand? And meanwhile, you're sending me to a place where they actually need that money. So, you know, it's really catch-22 sometimes for that kind of work. But he ended up killing himself, so I guess that's just tragic on both ends.
Yeah. Okay. So we're just opening up a few questions to the audience, if anybody has any. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Suleiman Ucheni. Photography is powerful, I'm not disputing that, but I always struggle to see it as an authentic artistic medium, especially because of what when you touched on, you said there's a lot of staging that goes into a lot of the more popular for instance, like the picture of the newborn girls. Those are the more popular artworks. I have struggled to see the value in that. I don't know if, because obviously people find value in it, that's why it's popular. I don't know if you can explain why those images are more popular than the other.
It's simple. People are trying to mimic something that's successful. That's what they're trying to do. Across this type of thing where people are doing thought that, oh, images are supposed to be taken in a certain way.
Yeah.
It's not, that's not how it is. It is that you are seeing things, right? And that's the license. You know, so I mean, there's not, if your business commercial, be true to that. It's as simple as that. Don't complicate it with, you know, copy another person. Yeah. I'm taking it because I want to make money. I just want, it's okay. This is what I look at. Does it make sense?
I feel the point I'm trying to make is why do people respond more to the more mass-produced pieces of art than the more powerful pieces of art?
Okay, so that's a function of society, to be honest. It's like news. Why do we like bad news? People love highlighted. At the end of the day, sensationalism and drama. We don't want to see ourselves as those people. But who are the people? Why is it that that is what is selling? And then two things. You see, you're looking at the things from the perspective of the commercial aspect of it. I feel the art of photography is staged. Everything in a painting is staged. They sketch it. If you look at Kelechi Amadi, why did he start photography? He was a painter. And he would use his picture, his camera to document what it is he wanted to paint. He used to do a lot of street art. And it was from there that he realized, oh, there's a lot in common in this, so I can start calculating the colors that a person should wear in a shoot, how they should be staged, the rules, the grids, you know? Because he is a technical, he's a painter. If you can be patient to paint, you'll be very patient with technical stuff. I say the same for engineers. If an engineer decides to be a photographer, wow. Architects, the same thing. Because their mind is very, you know, linear and you get to see things. But commercial things, unfortunately, is a function of society. And for people who are trying to survive, all they care about is how they're going to sell. Take this to even music. Music has been bastardized. That's the word I can use. Because people like nonsense. That's the truth. You know, if you look at Afrobeats, if you look at things like what Fela used to talk about, the kind of things that used to move even African music us telling our stories. And now you get pieces and then it's all, I don't even want to use the words that I have in my head right now. But you know what I mean? So I think you need to stop generalizing everyone in the commercial side of things, because in everything you do, if you look at even ethics, journalism is the same thing. It's commercial. They want to sell. They want those clicks. If I'm getting $1 for every click, why wouldn't I write that Mr. Suleiman was wearing an outfit made out of gold that he took from his grandmother's house after severing her head or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, people will click. They will even want to create news for you to counter, because you're going to have to pay for that countering. So for me, I feel I don't call every photographer an artist. I do not. I have a very low number of photographers that I've seen as artists. And that's why I look at someone like Almighty, because the art is so natural. The way he sees it is natural. But we have so many of them that are documenting the same culture that he's documenting. But how he puts it across and what he sees is very unique. Another street photographer I'll pick is Kabeni. Kabeni, I call him Kabeni from Kenya. So he's at Kabeni if you want to check him out online. Kabeni is also like, he does streets, but it's art. And he was one of the first people that I actually was like, I don't care, I am buying.
I want to start by putting on the effects of climate change. So first thing is, I do number one, you cannot be good for you to start it. So, I mean, something that was sustainable photography. How do I start off with that in line with climate change and environmental issues? Thank you.
This is a question for Awofeso.
You're like, so yes, your best treatment as a photographer is your eyes. Well, yeah, I mean, man, technology these days, you can use it. There's so many, like, my phone, what it gives me, I can take a picture, I can do it up, like a people, you know, I can print that size. So I don't know what it is when you say you work on a camera. I think that maybe you need to learn about cameras, you need to learn how a camera works, you need to know about shutter speed, ISO, aperture, and then also learn about different lenses, you know, why tele and all that. So,
What's the deal?
That's what I'm here to learn.
So you have to be the one to tell the story. I'm just trying to understand the context, because I would have just said you can have people that can support you to tell those stories. But you want to actually learn the craft itself.
And they're beautiful music.
Oh, I understand.
Guys, a photographer already, building communities.
Yeah, so I think for me, obviously learning the basics, it's very easy now. There are just too many resources online, way too many. You know, I always say to young people now, everything is right there in your hand. If you dedicate 30 minutes a day, in a month, you will know a lot. So I think I would say that is the easiest. But if you want to learn on the job, it would be good to align with someone who's already doing work and get them to mentor, you know, or to at least learn on the job based on the process, because it's actually deeper than just telling that story. You need to know the techniques. You need to know how you're telling that story. Is it good? Is it bad? I'll tell you a difference. We just talked about the Just Crisis, and there was an international firm. It was actually a music firm, one of these top conglomerates, And they wanted to tell a story in Jos, and that story, if it was documented the way it would probably have triggered another crisis. So by the time you sit and you review, if you don't really know what you're getting into, you can cause problems. Because it's actually real life. When you said climate change, and I believe that's where the whole world is going to now. We've moved from gender to climate. So it cuts across everything. But I really feel like that's really one of the main things. There's so many young people doing a lot of documentary stuff now, but just small schools here. I would just suggest look for the best documentary photographers. Almost all of them have master classes online now. That would be our
just like a general art advisor and curator. Climate change is a very broad, very broad subject. And just from the series, we document and show the experience that women have across rural Africa, where they take the burden of having to go out, trek long distances to fetch water. And that's kind of world that, so you can see how she uses, the stage setup and everything. The one on the left was actually done in salt plains, kind of showing the real reality that they live in. So this is one way of addressing a climate crisis, right? And she does that, you can do that both in studio and outside. And also like what you want to focus on. Because here in Nigeria, we're a well-producing nation. Greenhouse gases are a big contribution to climate change. Also, deforestation, pollution. So it's affecting us as communities, or it's affecting us as a country, or are you critiquing the response to climate change? So there's a lot that you actually need to think about, and I think the best advice I can give you is to just start. Just start. And start asking questions, and the answers will start coming.
I'll connect you to one.
I love you. Thank you so much.
Yes, there's a question.
Yes, there's a question. Hi, my name is Michael. So for some of us that are not full-fledged photographers, you made mention of the SDGs. So my question is, how would the photographer, what impact can we have on the SDGs? Because I know there are a couple, so I just wanted to see how we can tie photographers on SDGs. Right,
Okay, so first off, you have to even know what the SDGs are. We have 17 of them based on the illnesses that this, and like he just mentioned, photographers are actually like the top, because really everyone wants to tell a story needs to. Everyone. There's no story. I just mentioned it even yesterday. We had an artist with us at the festival, at the photo festival, and I said, what medium did she use to tell her story? It's her art, but she's had to tell it, document it, for you to see it. Because that painting, if we didn't have photography, no one's ever going to see it, unless you actually go to the place where it is placed. So I think that's what we need to understand, the power of photography, even with the SDG. So for many photographers now, they look at this, you see what aligns with you. So he just mentioned when we were discussing climate change, when I did there's like some kits that you can actually fill out online to know where your snacks are. I'm not a perfect person. The amount of contribution that I'm doing to climate change is very high. But I didn't know, as to you, which of the SDGs you should work on as an individual. So even as a photographer, by the time you look at the mistakes, for you to change yourself, you know the mistakes you're making, So, for example, you have a lot of people that will only drink water from a bottle, like a plastic bottle. So if you calculate, you're supposed to take 8 glasses a day, how many bottles of water is that you're adding into the dirt stream? So look at a place like Rwanda, it's because of photos and the narrative that they wanted that they banned plastic. You can even be locked up if you're using like plastic bags or throwing them away on the street. And why? Their narrative is very, very important to them. The way they want the world to see their country, especially after the heinous history that they had. But you see, what I realized is it takes many countries to go through stuff like that to actually speed up on many of these things. Because look at COVID. COVID got us to speed up on a lot of things. So as a photographer, I think it's the same kind of concept. These SDGs are there. What value can you add to them? And you're already probably doing it every day. It's for you to actually identify it. And that's also another avenue for you to get funding, because SDGs, and you're able to articulate it in a concept. There are a lot of grants out there waiting for it. Because people, the UN, those who have signed up to the SDGs are committed to that. So when you even align it to that, it brings you more opportunities than normal. Because that is the actual incentive. The SDGs is to give us incentive to do better, to be better, to achieve a better world. So I think, did I answer
Yes, you do.
your question?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I think we can just about wrap up. So thank you everybody for coming in. I hope you've all taken something from this, but if not, I hope you've taken a new approach to appreciating photography. I mean, that was my goal, for us to just appreciate it as a wonderful art form. Appreciate the work that a lot of curators, festival planners, and patrons of photography are doing, and also to be aware of the amazing work that photographers across Africa are doing. And I would like to say, please, a big round of applause for my co-panelists. Yes, and for you too. So thank you everybody for the works by Ada. If you have any questions on the works, or you want to know kind of the inspiration behind them, you can ask myself or Wokai over there. And yes, so after this, there's an exhibition opening at the Motion Gallery in Life Camp, Queering Possibilities. So you can just look at your Abuja Urban House map, and then you can get the directions and the location for the gallery. Thank you very much. Okay.
So I want to, give a public apology to Mr. Nguyen. I have cancelled on him for the last 3 years, over and over and over again. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you for constantly reminding me about where I'm meant to be. And I'm very, very honored to be here. Thank you so much.
It's all very well. Right, go ahead.
So it becomes representation. Now, Okay.